of California, Xavier Becerra.
Secretary, thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us. I wish I could tell you this is new news, but it's a regurgitation in many ways of something we've been hearing for over a year. I'm pleased to be joined, obviously, by Governor Newsom. We have our CARB chair, Mary Nichols, who has been a champion on these issues for a long time, and we're thrilled that she's here. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for also being part of this announcement. California has always been a state that leans forward. We've been setting the pace in so many ways for so many years here in America. When it comes to auto emissions, we know we have to get moving to address the dire air pollution issues in our state. It's not a choice for us. There are more than 35 million cars, trucks, and other vehicles that are registered here in our state of California. That's more than any other state. And those cars and trucks here in our state and across the country are the nation's largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Transportation alone in our state is responsible for 29% of all greenhouse gases. We're already seeing the way greenhouse gases and climate change are affecting our state, from wildfires and droughts to superstorms, floods, and mudslides. These changes affect not just our environment, but our economy and our health. California's leadership and expertise and the presence of serious air pollution concerns in our state are among the reasons why Congress granted our state the authority to combat our air pollution by setting our own standards for vehicle emissions way back. I want to be clear. Every time California sets a new air pollution rule for new motor vehicles, we have to get a waiver from the EPA every time. Since Governor, not Newsom, Governor Ronald Reagan was in office, we've had approvals. And since the creation of the Air Resources Board itself, California has been seeking waivers. We've been granted 100 waivers. Never has one been rejected. That's 50 years of receiving waivers. Thanks to the state's regulations written under these federal waivers, California has seen reductions of some 400,000 tons of emissions per year between 1970 and 2010. California standards have encouraged the development of critical emissions control technologies, many of which have been deployed nationally, not just in our state. Some of California's standards alone led to stronger standards from the EPA itself. All of this ultimately leading to cleaner cars and cleaner air for all Americans. It's clear that this is the direction we need to move in. It's clear that the stakes are high for California. It's clear to consumers across the country, and it's clear even to automakers who are embracing cleaner cars. As President Trump arrives in California to rake in campaign cash, his administration is preparing to announce his desperate plan to rob our state of its long-standing authority to set vehicle emissions standards. The president just tweeted about it a few minutes ago. Our message to those who claim to support states' rights: don't trample on ours. Doing so would be an attempt to undo the progress we've made over the past decades. We can't afford that here in California. We cannot afford to backslide in our battle against climate change. For us, this is about survival. Our communities are screaming for help to address the climate crisis. Unlike the Trump administration, we don't run scared. And so whether it is climate change or an administration recalcitrant in taking on its responsibilities, we're prepared to lead, we'll prepare to fight, we'll do what we must. With that, let me now turn it over to the CARB Board of Directors Chair, Mary Nichols.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I have a very heavy heart this morning. You mentioned that I've been working in this topic for a long time now. I had the privilege of serving at the Environmental Protection Agency under President Clinton at the time when California first adopted the zero-emission vehicle program, and EPA found a way eventually to approve that over the objections of the auto industry, I might add. some things have changed since then, even though every governor of California has had to go back and to confront EPA, sometimes more or less success, to push them to allow California to move ahead. It hasn't been always an easy, unbroken path, but the fact is that we are now in a situation where we are attempting to enforce standards that were developed in collaboration with not only the last administration, the Obama administration, but with the auto industry. And the jobs that the president is tweeting about this morning are all now moving in the direction of electric vehicles. The people at General Motors who he claims to care about, who are moving on into new careers, they are moving into electric vehicles because that company is now shifting all of their production into electric vehicles. So to be faced with a situation where the EPA is claiming that they now no longer can allow us to have a waiver, which is already in existence, is a particularly ironic situation. This has never happened before. EPA has sometimes stalled. We've sometimes had to push. We once went to court, but we have never had a situation where there was suddenly a change of mind about what to do. So I think there's no question, of course, that we will be in court as soon as we have a document actually out there, maybe even ahead of that. And I asked the Attorney General on the way in if, since I, in fact, have been paying my bar dues all these years just in readiness for this moment, he would allow me to sign on to the litigation. And he said he would find a way to do that. This is the fight of a lifetime for us. We have to win this, and I believe we will. In this battle, of course, we are led by our governor, who has shown himself to be a worthy champion for the cause of clean air and climate change, and who has not only backed us, but has pushed us every step of the way to do more. So, Governor Newsom, it's yours.
Thank you, Mary. And yeah, I want to pick up on the note of optimism. We will prevail. This was a move, demonstrable move to assert power and dominance, aggressive move against the state. A few days before UN Climate Week, to punctuate a point, and it's a point that's been advanced by previous administrations. Let's not forget, we were here just a few years back. George W. Bush asserted the same kind of authority, at least tried to assert that they had the ability to eliminate our waiver, a waiver that goes back to my birth year, 1967, when we had major smog in Southern California, and you had a leader, an environmental leader by modern terms, in the name of Ronald Reagan, who pushed the federal government, eventually leading to the Clean Air Act, signed by, again, a Republican environmental leader by modern Republican standards, by the name of Richard Nixon. This was bipartisan. You had a Senator Murphy, a Republican at the time in California, was also advocating for the same. I don't know what the hell has happened to the Republican Party. And by the way, where is the Republican Party right now? Where are they pushing back? Why aren't they pushing back? They believe in federalism. They believe in state rights. At least they assert that. And they're nowhere to be found on this. 100 waivers have been approved over and over and over again. Courts have upheld our rights of these waivers. So I'm confident we'll prevail eventually. It will take years and years and years, more uncertainty, more anxiety, but California will prevail because we're leaders in this space. And in the spirit of Jerry Brown, who I can't imagine wants to be in Calusa, he'd rather be standing here at this podium at this moment, let me quote Pericles, who said, "We do not imitate, for we are a model to others." Former mayor Pericles told that to the Athenians. We are the pace car as it relates to environmental stewardship, clean air, clean water, and reducing tailpipe emissions. And so we're proud of that. It's part of who we are. It's in our DNA. And it's part of our economic story. And I want to just close on this. We are also dealing with an administration that lays claim, and a Republican Party that lays claim to supporting free enterprise. The irony of that shouldn't be lost on anyone when they called in these same companies and threatened their business models and have now asserted under antitrust provisions, they have set the DOJ as a political arm in the administration to further threaten and chill our negotiations with additional companies that we're very soon about to join voluntarily California's higher vehicle emissions standards. That's not free enterprise. That's not about states' rights. That's about bullying and intimidation. That's unethical. I would argue on the margin illegal, but that's for folks that went to law school. I did not. And so California will assert itself. I'll just close on this. This is not surprising, as Mary said. I think we've been thinking about this. I think the day he got into office, we anticipated this move. But I find it so fascinating that we didn't think it would be his first move on the issue of tailpipe emissions. We thought he would go after our fuel standards that had now been adopted by the Obama administration and the law of the land. And it's interesting. They can't even fake the science. They're so desperately flailing, they seemingly can't even figure out the data and the science. And the irony of ironies, and I think one of you picked this up, if they possibly were successful with the waiver, but not with the vehicle model standards, the irony is the default would be back to the Obama standards, not to the new negotiated standards with the automobile companies that they claim to be protecting that were agreed to in our pact. That's the perversion of this moment. Pure politics, and politics that could have profound consequences, not just in terms of the air we breathe in the state of California, and addressing the fact we still lead the nation in air pollution. 7 of the top 10 cities, most polluted cities in America, are in our state. That's why this is so important. But will impact the rest of the country and in closing the rest of the world. The innovation genie is out of the bottle. Every single one of these companies know where the consumer's going, know where the world is going. They know where China has committed to going by 2040. They know where India and Japan are going, and that's the elimination of the internal combustion engine. Every one of these automobile manufacturers has to compete, not just domestically, but globally. They cannot compete unless they meet and anticipate the needs and meet the direction the rest of the world is going. California gets that because we're in the future business, and that's why they voluntarily agreed to our standards, because they know that's where the consumers are going and the market's going and the rest of the world's going. So it begs the question, Mr. Trump, what and who is this for? The companies, the automobile manufacturers, don't want it. So is it about Marathon Petroleum? Look them up, because it is. It's about Charles Koch's efforts to manipulate and to market, efforts to advance this announcement. It's about the oil industry, period, full stop. It's not about the car manufacturers, not about consumers, it's not about the health, it's not about our economy. It's about oil companies. And the irony of that final words is here we are, the precipice of more unrest in the Middle East, a time when we've yet again been exposed for our deep dependence on foreign oil that now has a trajectory to get us back into conflict in the Middle East. Our foreign policy, our treasury, our moral authority around the world, all dependent upon fossil fuel industry whose time is limited and is coming to an end. And California wants to make sure that we're on the right side of this hinge moment in world history, not just California and American history. So I applaud the Attorney General and just cannot say enough about the one and only Mary Nichols for her extraordinary talent and tenacity to do the right thing. We will prevail.
We'll take any questions. Actually, let me say a couple of words in Spanish because I know it'll be asked, and then we'll take some questions real quickly. Hoy anunciamos que el mismo día que el presidente Trump piensa venir a California para sacar dinero político de nuestro estado, no le vamos a permitir sacar y quitarnos la autoridad de proteger el medio ambiente, de limpiar el aire aquí en California, y vamos a tomar toda la acción necesaria para asegurarle a cualquier persona que vive en nuestro estado de que nosotros aquí queremos limpiar el aire, el agua que usamos, que dependemos en cada día, Y no importa lo que quiera hacer el presidente o lo que diga en sus tweets, nosotros estamos listos de proteger al pueblo de California. Y por eso estamos aquí parados, firmes en nuestra obligación de contestar a los votantes, contestar al pueblo residente de California, no a un presidente que quiere otra vez violar la ley en cambiar la ley. We'll take questions. Bueno, el anuncio viene. Solo tenemos tweets y tweets no son oficial. Bueno, tal vez en esta administración sí trabajan como ley o lo piensa Donald Trump, pero lo que sabemos es que la administración está pensando negarle a California la autoridad que ha tenido por unos 50 años de tratar de controlar la polución en nuestro estado. Y nosotros no podemos permitir eso, porque sabemos que nuestros hijos dependen en un aire que pueden respirar. Así que para nosotros esto es algo que tenemos que hacer. Y si el presidente trata de quitarnos esa autoridad de proteger a nuestro pueblo, haremos lo necesario. Yo no trato de adivinar lo que hace Donald Trump. Let's take some more questions. Yes. Yeah.
Legal basis out there. What's the basis of the legal challenge that Trump will have the executive authority to do what he's saying he's going to do?
Well, let me just sum it up by saying he doesn't have the executive authority to do this. He's going about it the wrong way, and we think that we can prove under the existing law, whether it's environmental law statutes that have been around for a long time, or based on his constant violation of the Constitution, that this type of action won't stand. There is a process by which our governments are required, a due process under which our governments are supposed to act to try to deprive our people of their rights. And certainly under the 10th Amendment, the states have rights as well. And so we're going to do what we must to protect the rights that we've had for some 50 years.
Are you saying that only Congress would have the authority to do something like this, or that he's the right process?
Well, why don't we wait to see what they're actually going to do before we tell you how we're going to respond. But we're hearing, obviously, a number of things, and we're prepared to defend what we and the federal government have been doing for over some 50 years.
And it's important, I think,
Go
that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was adjudication in 2007 in multiple cases that went to federal court that were rejected. So there's also precedent here, legal precedent, and there were arguments made then, I imagine won't be completely dissimilar depending on the action of the president that will be made in the next few weeks.
It just depends on what they do. And Mary, I don't know if you want to add anything to this.
Well, what we've heard from Mr. Wheeler is that they're trying to muddy the waters. Well, first of all, they're blaming the press, actually, for muddying the waters. But getting beyond that, that what they're saying is they're not going to interfere with our public health authority to set standards only with climate change. And the reason why we can't set climate change standards or greenhouse gas standards is because that interferes with the Department of Transportation's right to set the fuel economy standards under CAFE. That issue, as the governor said, has been litigated twice now. We don't think it's a winning issue. But even more importantly, on a factual basis, you can't separate these two things. The standards that we are now in the process of enforcing are necessary to protect the public health and welfare, not just because we care about the future of the planet or polar bears. It's because we actually need these extra clean cars in order to meet the health standards that are set by the federal government that we violate now on a very regular basis throughout Southern California and the San Joaquin Valley. If this prevails, if it were to prevail, because I don't believe it will, millions of people in California and other states that follow our standards will be breathing dirtier air. They will suffer from more pollution, more asthma cases, more hospitalizations, more premature deaths, because the Trump administration is going to try to pull back on the current standards. Well, we're in a different world now. You know, I don't want to talk about the state of discussions that we had with individual companies. Nobody has changed their positions from where they were in a formal sense. So the four companies that signed the agreement. Other companies have told us that they were considering, about to, wanted to, but we're not having any discussions right now because, frankly, this new situation causes everybody to step back and say, what do we do now? And in the case of California, we're telling you what we're doing now.
And make no bones about it, they were threatened directly by the Trump administration. Threatened. I don't think this, we know this from conversations I have with a number of the CEOs. That's the state of America in 2019. President of the United States and his surrogates threatening private enterprise to do what they think is right to meet the needs of their customers that also has the benefit of improving health, safety, and fuel economy of millions and millions of Americans. That's a remarkable statement in and of itself. The problem is that statement will be lost in this afternoon's tweet as we rush zig to zag to keep up with this guy. But it is an extraordinary thing. And here's also what's extraordinary. That these companies have to make a decision. Very soon, they're making commitments to new model years going out, 2021, 22, 23, 24. They have to make commitments now. Which standards are they going to meet? Are they going to voluntarily agree to the higher standards, the ones that were advanced by the Obama administration, or wait for years and years of uncertainty and litigation? I think they have no choice but to do the right thing, and I think that's what's leading to the president's unique frustration with California, because we are outsized in terms of our influence, and this is a point of real deep frustration for him. I think the oil industry's wanted to get rid of this waiver for years and years, and it, again, predates President Trump. I think we can overplay this waiver specifically as an action that's unique to the relationship between the state and the administration. It's just one of many examples of that relationship, but I think one can overstate it, as this waiver, again, was attacked by George W. Bush administration, and we have predicted this day for many, many years since inauguration. So in that respect, I think one should be cautious about overhyping this particular act. But the sum total, the aggregate, cannot be overhyped. It is pretty clear that the two, the state and this administration, do not see eye on not just environmental issues, but immigration issues, health issues, and a myriad of other issues of which our Attorney General has led.
I just want to clarify, the state, you guys haven't received any
Well,
it's just a tweet.
long tweet.
So
Yeah.
you don't give those tweets official status?
Unbelievable.
Is that frustrating or hard to plan?
Has it been different for 2.5 years?
I want to ask, you mentioned earlier the
Transportation.
In the state. By the way, it's 41% of you consider the totality of the transportation sector. What the Attorney General was referencing specifically cars, but you look at airplanes and other emissions, Mary, correct, it's a little over 40%. In the nation, it's a little lower. By the way, that's why this is the game changer. You can't get serious about climate change unless you're serious about vehicle emissions. You're not serious about addressing the issues of climate change unless you're in this space. This is big. Everything else is relatively small. This is the game changer. And so for all those kids that are testifying today on Capitol Hill, focus on this issue. Focus on this moment. This is such a pivotal moment in the history of the climate change debate. Again, not just in California, America, but our leadership and influence around the rest of the world. That's why when Mary said, I'm here with a heavy heart, she means that, and why she says she wants to be attached by name to this effort. She means that because this is a legacy moment. It is of that consequence.
How many 30-some odd million people have vehicles in California? I don't think they're showing you that they can't afford cars. In fact, the auto industry's had some of their best years in recent years. So People are buying these vehicles, and they're far more efficient and cleaner than they've ever been.
The industry's been turning out new electrified models at a pace that's never been seen before, including trucks now, because they can see that they can market these vehicles worldwide in places where the price of gasoline is really prohibitive, and also that customers, by the way, don't mind having a better fuel economy if they get all the other virtues that they want. And electric vehicles are fun to drive. People actually like them because they have a lot of power and pickup, and you can speed away from red lights and all of that. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
I don't know about the speed away from red lights. but-
Green lights.
Green lights.
Stop signs. Speed away from stop
But let's just, hey, I'm a free market guy. Why do these companies voluntarily agree? Because they know it's where the consumer's going. And they recognize the fuel efficiency is the differentiator. The cost of fuel will more than offset any cost associated with improving technology. But the improved technology is also a competitive advantage in terms of your market share and your ability to compete for consumers that are looking for the latest technology and efficiency and experience. So that's the most specious argument of the lot, particularly at a time when oil hit yesterday $62.10. I did not check the price of crude this morning.
And check the numbers when they tell you they're going to be less expensive. Don't just buy into their claim that they'll be less
Could you
expensive.
speak into the mic?
Yes, go ahead.
If you'd like it to be recorded.
What does this waiver actually do for automakers? What standards does it set for them to do, and why would that be?
It doesn't set new standards. It simply tries to rip away authority that California has. By the way, if the arguments in the president's tweets are the arguments they would use to propel this initiative, then we're looking pretty good, and we'll enjoy facing them in court if that's the argument they're going to make. We'd love to see them put the facts and the science together, and that's perhaps why they've taken so long to issue something they've been saying forever that they were going to do, is they can't find a way to square the facts and the science with what they're trying to do.
Governor, your veto would have to be one that bill is a big sweeping.
Let's do this. Hold that question. Let's take all the questions on this particular issue first.
Obviously, it's related to.
Okay, if it's going to relate it to this one, go right ahead.
You know, it would, have fair resource for setting some of the voluntary.
Back to the point, a solution in search of a problem. What does it do that we're not doing?
On the tax topic for automakers, are you in favor of restricting the electric vehicle rebates?
Well, I appreciated your article this morning, and I appreciate you were going to be working on a new article Friday when we make some announcements on that.
Ooh, intrigued. Yes.
Governor, just yesterday you were talking about how you kind of have a cordial relationship with Trump on the phone and in person with him.
Did I say that? Yeah. It was yesterday, all right?
Jekyll and Hyde type of relationship. Is that just theatrics or?
You got to ask him. I don't know. Look, as I said, I just don't wake up with a clenched fist every morning. I don't. I want to work with the president. I want to work with him on emergency declarations, debris removal, on disaster recovery. I want to work with him on resiliency, broadly defined. I want to work with him on getting rid of flavored e-cigarettes. I want to work with him on a myriad of issues, getting prescription drugs down and his alleged commitment to infrastructure. But in the absence of that, we're going to push back when he tries to go after our dreamers and go after, access to reproductive rights and go after our diverse communities. And, we're going to have the backs of people of the state and our values. And I don't think the Attorney General wakes up looking for a lawsuit, but the vast majority of these were reacting to the assault in this state. And so it's an unfortunate relationship. But the good news, we got a great legal mind here and a legal team, and we're winning. And that's the frustration he's having. We are winning. He's losing. And we're winning because we have the law, science, and facts on our side, and we have not only the formal authority, we have the moral authority. And that is something missing in this White House.
Any final questions?
Can we go on to other subjects now?
Yeah.
5
You have
minutes.
time? 5 minutes?
It's all yours.
It's okay. Well,
So for you.
just one last question, so that way you can say goodbye to Mary and Jared and the governor.
Regarding the Wade City lawsuit on homelessness that's in federal court,
you know the answer here. We don't generally discuss any legal actions that we might take, any investigations that we may be undertaking as well. And so you'll have to stay tuned. Certainly we understand the issue of homelessness. We've worked with the legislature and the governor on issues of homelessness where we can, and we'll make sure that we're on top of it because it is a crucial issue that we must solve here in California. But I can't get into any specifics about any kind of legal action we might be taking. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Oh, did you want to ask one last question? Yes.
So I know you can't talk about investigations or folks and whether or not you're involved. But can you say generally what you would say to those who have the perception that California is not being aggressive enough in looking at
I'd say that for those who have some question, did they know that we were going to take on the largest healthcare system in Northern California in its continued consolidation of the infrastructure in healthcare to the point where we're wheel edge, that it has cost Northern Californians thousands of dollars more to get health care here than in Southern California for the same services. Our lawsuit against Sutter Health is based on antitrust violations. Were Californians aware that we were going to sue one of the largest oil companies in America, Valero, for trying to consolidate in the distribution of the very petroleum that they refine, in which case they would allow them to own the spigot and control the spigot on how Californians get their gasoline. We took on Valero then, and we won, but no one knew about that. Did people know we were in a protracted investigation of and a successful culmination of the case against Equifax for its breach of private information? I could go on, and we don't discuss, for good reasons, any investigations we might undertake because we want to make sure that we optimize the opportunity to succeed. Where appropriate, we will. Opioids, everyone knows that virtually every state is involved in an action. It's not because California disclosed it, it's because others did. And of course, it became apparent that California was part of that investigation. And by the way, I would submit to you that because so much was being aired publicly and also being leaked, we now have a situation where many of the plaintiffs, including virtually every state, have now taken different positions on how to settle the opioid crisis with regard to Purdue Pharma. And that's unfortunate because I think it would have been best if all the plaintiffs were speaking with one voice. Many of us are moving forward, opposed to the purported settlement, which is worth far less than Purdue Pharma would like people to believe. But it doesn't help when information is leaked out. That doesn't help you progress. And in our state of California, we try to make sure that the first thing that we care about, the priority for us, is winning if we're going to investigate and prosecute. Thank you. Okay, have a great day.